Introduction: Unmasking the Myth of Success. What does it mean to make it in today's workplace? For decades, the idea of achieving professional success has been wrapped in promises of hard work, perseverance, and self-determination. But beneath the surface lies a far more complicated reality, one shaped by systemic inequities, power dynamics, and the often unspoken sacrifices demanded of those who dare to climb the corporate ladder. In The Myth of Making It, A Workplace Reckoning, Samhita Mukhopadhyay dismantles the glossy facade of success, offering a bold and thought-provoking critique of what it really takes to thrive in the modern workplace. Drawing on personal stories, societal analysis, and historical context, she reveals how the pursuit of professional achievement is often rigged against those who aren't part of the traditional power structures. This book isn't just about pointing out what's broken, it's a call to action for individuals, leaders, and organizations to rethink what success should look like. Mukhopadhyay challenges us to question the narratives we've been told, the systems we uphold, and the costs we're willing to bear to make it. From understanding the hidden forces that shape workplace dynamics to redefining success on your own terms, this journey will inspire you to see your career and the workplace in a new light. Are you ready to uncover the truth behind the myth and chart a path toward a more authentic and equitable future? Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Illusion of Meritocracy. Who gets to make it? The promise of meritocracy, the idea that hard work and talent alone determine success, has long been a cornerstone of workplace culture. It's a seductive concept that suggests a level playing field, where anyone can rise to the top with enough effort. But as Samhita Mukhopadhyay reveals in The Myth of Making It, this ideal often falls short of reality, masking systemic inequalities and deeply entrenched biases. The meritocracy myth. While meritocracy sounds fair in theory, the workplace is rarely an equal playing field. Mukhopadhyay highlights how factors like race, gender, socioeconomic background, and privilege significantly influence who gets access to opportunities. Promotions, mentorship, and recognition are often shaped by implicit biases and pre-existing networks rather than objective assessments of talent or effort. Key insights. Privilege compounds success. Those who already possess advantages, such as access to elite education or powerful networks, are more likely to succeed. Bias in decision-making. Hiring and promotion processes are often influenced by unconscious biases, favoring those who fit established norms or stereotypes. Merit is subjective. Workplace achievements are frequently judged through a lens of cultural expectations, with certain groups having to work harder to prove their worth. The hidden costs of assimilation. For those who don't fit the mold, making it often comes at a steep cost. Mukhopadhyay explores how marginalized employees are pressured to assimilate, suppressing aspects of their identity to conform to workplace expectations. This can lead to emotional exhaustion, erasure of individuality, and a sense of alienation. Examples include women being told to tone down assertiveness to appear more likable, people of color navigating microaggressions while maintaining professionalism, LGBTQ+ individuals choosing to remain closeted in workplaces that lack inclusivity. The role of gatekeepers. Gatekeepers, those in positions of power who control access to opportunities, play a pivotal role in perpetuating inequities. Mukhopadhyay argues that many gatekeepers unconsciously reinforce existing hierarchies by favoring those who resemble themselves in background, demeanor, or outlook. This perpetuates a cycle where privilege begets privilege, leaving others on the margins. The hustle culture trap. Mukhopadhyay critiques the rise of hustle culture, which glorifies overwork and positions burnout as a badge of honor. This mindset reinforces the myth of meritocracy by suggesting that anyone who isn't succeeding simply isn't trying hard enough. In reality, structural barriers often limit access to the very opportunities that hustle culture claims to reward. Consequences of hustle culture. Normalizing unhealthy work-life balance, penalizing those who prioritize personal well-being, perpetuating systemic inequalities by ignoring barriers beyond individual control. Moving beyond the myth. The illusion of meritocracy is not just a personal struggle, it's a structural problem that requires systemic change. Mukhopadhyay calls for workplaces to critically examine their practices and actively address inequities. This includes reevaluating hiring and promotion processes, diversifying leadership, and creating environments where everyone can thrive without sacrificing their authenticity. Laying the groundwork. The myth of meritocracy feeds into broader narratives about success, power, and worth. By unpacking these assumptions, Mukhopadhyay sets the stage for deeper conversations about how workplace systems perpetuate inequities and how they can be dismantled. In the next chapter, we'll explore the emotional toll of navigating these challenges and how individuals are forced to adapt to survive in inequitable environments. Chapter 2. The emotional toll of making it. Behind every success story lies an often unspoken emotional journey, one shaped by the pressure to conform, the stress of navigating inequities, and the constant tension between personal values and workplace demands. In this chapter, we discuss the psychological and emotional costs of striving to make it in a system that's stacked against so many. The weight of conformity. For marginalized groups, the pressure to fit into workplace norms can be overwhelming. Mukhopadhyay explores how employees are often forced to downplay aspects of their identity, modify their behavior, or adopt personas that align with dominant workplace cultures. This relentless effort to conform takes a significant emotional toll, leading to feelings of isolation, disconnection, and imposter syndrome. Key challenges. Code switching, constantly altering speech, appearance, or behavior to align with workplace expectations. Self-censorship, suppressing opinions or ideas to avoid being labeled as difficult or too radical. Emotional labor, managing others' perceptions and emotions, often at the expense of one's own well-being. The cumulative impact of these pressures can result in what psychologists call identity fatigue, where the effort to navigate and negotiate multiple worlds becomes exhausting. Microaggressions and their impact. Microaggressions, subtle, often unintentional slights or insults, are a daily reality for many in the workplace. Mukhopadhyay highlights how these experiences contribute to a culture of exclusion, reinforcing the idea that certain individuals don't truly belong. Examples of microaggressions. Questioning someone's credentials or qualifications more rigorously than others. Assumptions based on stereotypes, such as expecting women to take notes or organize events, backhanded compliments, like "you're so articulate" for someone from a certain background. The emotional toll of microaggressions is cumulative, leading to feelings of frustration, invisibility, and diminished confidence. Over time, these experiences erode trust in the workplace and make it harder for individuals to thrive. The burnout phenomenon. Mukhopadhyay connects the emotional toll of inequities to the widespread issue of burnout. For those navigating systemic barriers, burnout often stems not just from overwork but from the added stress of fighting to be seen, heard, and valued. Factors contributing to burnout. Emotional exhaustion, the constant strain of proving one's worth and navigating biases. Hypervisibility, being overly scrutinized as the only representative of a group in a workplace. Lack of support, feeling isolated due to the absence of mentors, allies, or inclusive policies. Mukhopadhyay argues that burnout isn't just an individual issue, it's a systemic problem that reflects the flaws in workplace cultures and structures. The myth of resilience. Society often glorifies resilience, celebrating those who overcome obstacles without addressing why those obstacles exist in the first place. Mukhopadhyay critiques this narrative, pointing out that while resilience is admirable, it shouldn't be a requirement for survival in the workplace. The downside of the resilience myth. Shifts responsibility from organizations to individuals, normalizes toxic workplace environments, perpetuates inequities by placing the burden of adaptation on marginalized employees. Instead of forcing individuals to continually adapt, Mukhopadhyay calls for systemic changes that address the root causes of inequity and foster environments where everyone can succeed without unnecessary hardship. Coping strategies and community. To counteract the emotional toll, Mukhopadhyay highlights the importance of building supportive networks and finding spaces where authenticity is valued. Whether through affinity groups, mentorship, or external communities, these connections provide vital emotional sustenance. Practical steps. Seek mentors and allies. Build relationships with those who can offer guidance and advocacy, set boundaries. Protect your mental health by defining limits on work demands. Find your tribe. Connect with like-minded individuals who share your experiences and values. Toward a healthier workplace. The emotional costs of striving to make it are a symptom of larger systemic issues in the workplace. Mukhopadhyay emphasizes that true change requires organizations to take responsibility for creating inclusive, equitable environments that prioritize well-being alongside productivity. By acknowledging the emotional toll and advocating for systemic reform, individuals and organizations alike can move toward a future where success doesn't come at the expense of mental health and authenticity. In the next chapter, we'll examine the structural barriers that perpetuate workplace inequities and explore strategies for dismantling them. Chapter 3: Structural Barriers, the Hidden Forces Shaping the Workplace. Behind every workplace inequity lies a web of structural barriers, policies, practices, and cultural norms that subtly but powerfully perpetuate exclusion and inequality. In this chapter, Samhita Mukhopadhyay unpacks the systemic factors that shape workplace dynamics, exploring how they affect access to opportunities, advancement, and the ability to thrive. The architecture of inequality. Workplace structures often appear neutral on the surface, but they're built on historical legacies of exclusion and privilege. Mukhopadhyay highlights how hiring practices, promotion criteria, and organizational hierarchies reinforce existing power imbalances. Examples of structural barriers. Homogeneous leadership. Senior positions are often dominated by individuals from similar backgrounds, perpetuating a narrow perspective of who belongs in leadership. Unspoken expectations, criteria for success, such as working overtime or relocating, disproportionately disadvantage individuals with caregiving responsibilities or limited resources. Networking dependence. The reliance on informal networks for hiring and promotions excludes those who lack access to influential circles. These structural dynamics create invisible walls that block entry for many while enabling the privileged few to ascend unimpeded. The broken rung. Mukhopadhyay addresses the phenomenon known as the broken rung, where marginalized individuals, particularly women and people of color, face significant obstacles at the earliest stages of their careers. These barriers often prevent them from gaining the foundational experience needed to climb the corporate ladder. Factors contributing to the broken rung. Bias in early promotions. Men are often promoted based on potential, while women are judged solely on proven performance. Unequal mentorship. Access to mentorship and sponsorship is often limited for underrepresented groups. Lack of entry-level opportunities. Structural inequities in education and economic resources limit access to internships and junior roles. Addressing this broken rung is crucial for creating a more equitable pipeline to leadership. The double bind. For many marginalized employees, structural barriers come with a double bind, being held to higher standards while receiving fewer opportunities to demonstrate their abilities. Mukhopadhyay explores how this phenomenon leads to an environment where certain individuals must work twice as hard for half the recognition. Examples of the double bind. Women labeled as too aggressive or too passive. With little room for a middle ground, people of color facing scrutiny that their white counterparts do not. LGBTQ+ employees being expected to represent their entire community while downplaying their personal identity. This double bind creates a cycle of exclusion, making it harder for individuals to gain the visibility and trust needed for advancement. The role of unconscious bias. Unconscious bias plays a significant role in perpetuating structural barriers. These biases influence decisions in ways that are often invisible, affecting hiring, promotions, and even day-to-day interactions. Mukhopadhyay emphasizes that addressing bias requires more than individual awareness, it demands systemic change. Key manifestations of unconscious bias. Affinity bias. Favoring those who share similar backgrounds or characteristics. Performance bias. Assuming certain groups are inherently less capable or competent. Confirmation bias. Seeking evidence that reinforces pre-existing stereotypes. Policies that reinforce inequities. Even well-meaning workplace policies can unintentionally reinforce inequities. Mukhopadhyay critiques practices like unpaid internships, inflexible work hours, and vague promotion criteria, which often disadvantage those without financial privilege or caregiving support. Examples of exclusionary policies. Unpaid internships. These disproportionately favor individuals who can afford to work without pay, excluding many from valuable opportunities. Rigid schedules. Inflexible hours penalize employees with caregiving responsibilities. Lack of transparency, vague promotion criteria, and unclear pathways to advancement create ambiguity that favors insiders. The path to structural reform. To dismantle structural barriers, Mukhopadhyay calls for intentional, systemic reforms. Organizations must examine their policies, practices, and cultures to identify inequities and actively work to address them. Strategies for reform. 1. Diversify leadership. Ensure that decision-making roles reflect the diversity of the workforce. 2. Transparent processes. Establish clear criteria for hiring, promotions, and evaluations to reduce bias. 3. Inclusive policies. Create programs that support work-life balance, such as flexible hours, paid parental leave, and equitable pay structures. The call for accountability. Mukhopadhyay stresses that dismantling structural barriers requires accountability at all levels of an organization. Leaders must commit to creating equitable environments, employees must advocate for change, and companies must measure progress through tangible outcomes. Shifting the system. Structural barriers are not insurmountable, but addressing them requires collective effort and a willingness to challenge the status quo. By recognizing and reforming these hidden forces, workplaces can move closer to becoming truly inclusive spaces. In the next chapter, we'll examine how individuals can navigate these barriers while pushing for broader systemic change. Chapter 4. Navigating Inequitable Systems, Strategies for Survival and Resistance. For individuals working within inequitable systems, navigating workplace dynamics often feels like walking a tightrope. This chapter explores the personal strategies that marginalized employees use to survive, succeed, and push back against systemic barriers. While the burden of change shouldn't fall solely on individuals, Samhita Mukhopadhyay acknowledges that understanding these strategies is essential for thriving in the short term while advocating for broader transformation. The art of adaptation. In inequitable systems, adaptation becomes a survival skill. Employees often develop strategies to mitigate biases, navigate power dynamics, and maintain their professional standing. However, these adaptations can be emotionally taxing, requiring a delicate balance between fitting in and staying true to oneself. Key strategies for adaptation. Code switching. Adjusting language, tone, or behavior to align with workplace norms and avoid negative stereotypes. Strategic visibility. Choosing when and how to highlight accomplishments without appearing boastful. Building alliances. Forming relationships with influential colleagues who can act as sponsors or advocates. While these tactics can help individuals succeed in the short term, Mukhopadhyay emphasizes that they often come at the cost of authenticity and emotional well-being. The power of networks. Support networks are crucial for navigating inequitable systems. Mukhopadhyay highlights how mentorship, affinity groups, and professional organizations provide critical emotional and professional support. These networks serve as spaces where individuals can share experiences, seek advice, and strategize collectively. Types of networks to leverage. Mentorship. Seek mentors who can provide guidance, advocacy, and insights into navigating workplace dynamics. Affinity groups. Join or create groups that bring together individuals with shared identities or interests. External organizations. Engage with professional associations or advocacy groups to access resources and amplify your voice. Building these connections not only provides immediate support but also helps create a sense of community and solidarity in challenging environments. The double-edged sword of visibility. For marginalized employees, visibility is both a necessity and a risk. While being visible can lead to recognition and opportunities, it also invites greater scrutiny and higher expectations. Mukhopadhyay explores how individuals can strategically manage visibility to maximize its benefits while minimizing its drawbacks. Tips for managing visibility. 1. Own your narrative. Proactively share your achievements and goals to shape how others perceive you. 2. Balance humility and confidence. Avoid downplaying your contributions, but present them in a way that aligns with workplace culture. 3. Choose your battles. Identify when to speak up and when to prioritize self-preservation. Advocating for change from within. While navigating inequitable systems, many individuals also work to challenge those systems and create change. Mukhopadhyay explores the delicate balance between maintaining one's position and pushing for progress. Strategies for advocacy. Use your platform. Leverage your role to highlight inequities and propose solutions. Allyship. Collaborate with colleagues to amplify marginalized voices and challenge systemic biases. Incremental change. Focus on achievable reforms that lay the groundwork for broader transformation. Advocating for change often involves walking a fine line between resistance and compromise, requiring careful judgment and strategic thinking. Protecting mental health. Navigating inequitable systems takes a toll on mental health, making self-care and resilience critical. Mukhopadhyay underscores the importance of prioritizing well-being, setting boundaries, and seeking professional support when needed. Tips for protecting mental health. Set boundaries. Define limits to prevent burnout and overwork. Seek professional help. Therapy or counseling can provide valuable tools for managing stress and emotional exhaustion. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledge progress, even when systemic change feels slow. The dual role of individuals. While systemic change requires collective action, Mukhopadhyay recognizes the role individuals play in both surviving inequities and pushing for progress. By navigating these challenges with intention and resilience, employees can carve out spaces of influence and begin to shift workplace culture from within. The bigger picture. Mukhopadhyay concludes the chapter by reminding readers that individual strategies, while essential, are not enough to dismantle systemic inequities. True progress requires organizations to step up, leaders to act with accountability, and society to demand change. In the next chapter, we'll explore how organizations can take responsibility for creating equitable, inclusive environments that benefit everyone. Chapter 5. Rethinking Workplace Culture, the Role of Organizations in Driving Change. Creating a truly equitable and inclusive workplace requires more than individual effort, it demands systemic change led by organizations. In this chapter, Samhita Mukhopadhyay shifts the focus from personal strategies to the responsibility of institutions in dismantling inequities, fostering belonging, and redefining workplace culture. The flaws in business as usual. Mukhopadhyay critiques the entrenched norms that perpetuate exclusion, highlighting how traditional workplace practices prioritize profit and efficiency over equity and employee well-being. These norms often marginalize those who don't fit the dominant mold, reinforcing a culture of homogeneity and resistance to change. Key flaws in current workplace culture. Performance over people. A relentless focus on productivity dehumanizes employees. Treating them as resources rather than individuals, lip service to diversity, tokenistic initiatives fail to address the systemic issues that drive inequities. Resistance to accountability. Organizations often deflect responsibility for inequities, blaming individuals rather than addressing structural flaws. The case for inclusive leadership. Mukhopadhyay underscores the importance of leadership in setting the tone for workplace culture. Inclusive leaders actively foster environments where all employees feel valued, respected, and empowered to succeed. Traits of inclusive leaders. 1. Empathy. Understanding and addressing the unique challenges faced by employees from diverse backgrounds. 2. Humility. Acknowledging gaps in knowledge and being open to feedback and growth. 3. Accountability. Taking responsibility for creating and sustaining equitable practices. Leaders who embrace these traits play a pivotal role in building cultures of trust and collaboration, paving the way for lasting change. Structural solutions for equity. To move beyond superficial efforts, organizations must adopt structural reforms that address the root causes of workplace inequities. Mukhopadhyay outlines actionable strategies to create environments where everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive. Key reforms. Transparent hiring and promotions. Implement clear, objective criteria to reduce bias and favoritism, pay equity audits, regularly review compensation structures to identify and correct disparities, flexible policies, support diverse needs with initiatives like remote work options, parental leave, and accommodations for disabilities, comprehensive DEI training, go beyond one-off workshops to embed diversity, equity, and inclusion into the fabric of the organization. Redefining success. Mukhopadhyay calls for a re-examination of how success is defined and rewarded in the workplace. Instead of prioritizing individual achievements, organizations should value collaboration, community impact, and long-term sustainability. Steps to redefine success. Recognize collective efforts. Reward teams for their contributions rather than singling out individuals. Emphasize well-being. Celebrate employees who model balance and self-care alongside high performance. Promote innovation through inclusion. Foster diverse perspectives to drive creativity and problem-solving. Building cultures of belonging. Creating a sense of belonging is essential for retaining talent and fostering engagement. Mukhopadhyay emphasizes that belonging goes beyond diversity. It's about ensuring that all employees feel supported, respected, and connected. Strategies for fostering belonging. Amplify underrepresented voices. Ensure diverse perspectives are heard and valued in decision-making processes. Create safe spaces. Establish forums where employees can share experiences and concerns without fear of retaliation. Celebrate diversity. Recognize and honor the cultural, personal, and professional identities of employees. The role of accountability. Organizational change requires accountability at every level. Mukhopadhyay stresses that progress must be measured and tracked, with leaders held responsible for implementing and sustaining equitable practices. Tools for accountability. Regular reporting. Publish metrics on diversity, pay equity, and employee satisfaction. Feedback mechanisms. Create channels for employees to share concerns and ideas anonymously. Leadership incentives. Tie executive compensation to progress on equity goals. The benefits of equity for all. Equity is not just a moral imperative, it's a business advantage. Mukhopadhyay highlights how inclusive workplaces are more innovative, collaborative, and resilient. Organizations that prioritize equity attract top talent, foster loyalty, and drive long-term success. A blueprint for change. By committing to systemic reform, organizations can dismantle the barriers that limit potential and create environments where everyone can thrive. Mukhopadhyay's blueprint for change challenges organizations to reimagine their cultures, values, and practices, laying the groundwork for a more equitable and sustainable future. As the book moves toward its conclusion, we turn to the collective power of individuals and institutions to reshape workplace dynamics, creating systems that reflect the values of fairness, inclusion, and shared success. In the final chapter, we'll explore the broader implications of this movement and its potential to transform society at large. Chapter 6: Reimagining the Future of Work Toward Equity and Collective Success. The workplace, as we know it, is at a turning point. In the final chapter, Samhita Mukhopadhyay envisions a future where workplaces are not only equitable but also places of collaboration, innovation, and shared prosperity. By harnessing the collective power of individuals, organizations, and society, the systems that have perpetuated inequities can be dismantled, paving the way for a more just and inclusive professional landscape. The collective power of change. Mukhopadhyay emphasizes that transforming workplaces requires a collective effort. While individuals play a critical role in advocating for change, real progress hinges on the participation of organizations, policymakers, and broader societal forces. This interconnected approach ensures that efforts are sustainable and far-reaching. Components of collective change. Individuals demand accountability, advocate for inclusion, and use their voices to challenge inequities. Organizations implement systemic reforms and create cultures of equity and belonging. Policymakers enact legislation that addresses workplace disparities and protects workers' rights. Communities support movements for social and economic justice, amplifying voices of marginalized groups. Redefining work itself. Mukhopadhyay challenges the conventional definition of work, calling for a shift in how productivity, success, and value are measured. Instead of focusing solely on profits and individual achievements, workplaces of the future should prioritize well-being, collaboration, and societal impact. Key elements of a redefined workplace. Human-centered policies, foster work-life balance, mental health support, and flexible arrangements, purpose-driven missions, align organizational goals with social responsibility and ethical practices, community-focused metrics, evaluate success based on the positive impact on employees, customers, and society. The role of technology. Technology has the potential to be both a tool for inclusion and a perpetuator of inequity. Mukhopadhyay explores how technological advancements can reshape the workplace, offering opportunities to democratize access and level the playing field, if implemented thoughtfully. Opportunities in technology. Remote work expands access to opportunities for individuals in underserved areas. AI-driven equity. Algorithms designed with diversity in mind can reduce bias in hiring and evaluations. Collaboration tools enhance teamwork and connectivity across diverse teams. However, Mukhopadhyay warns that without intentional oversight, technology can also exacerbate disparities, such as automating jobs in vulnerable communities or reinforcing biases in algorithms. The cultural shift toward equity. A truly inclusive workplace cannot exist without a broader cultural shift. Mukhopadhyay stresses the importance of reshaping societal attitudes about work, success, and fairness. This requires challenging long-held assumptions and fostering a collective commitment to justice. Cultural shifts to embrace. Equity over equality. Recognize that fair treatment often requires tailored approaches. Not one-size-fits-all solutions. Collaboration over competition. Cultivate a culture of shared success rather than zero-sum thinking. Diversity as strength. Embrace the innovation and resilience that come from varied perspectives. Building bridges across movements. Workplace inequities are deeply connected to broader social and economic systems. Mukhopadhyay advocates for aligning workplace reform efforts with larger movements for racial justice, gender equality, labor rights, and environmental sustainability. Intersectional efforts. Economic justice. Advocate for fair wages, benefits, and protections for all workers. Gender equality. Address systemic barriers that limit opportunities for women and non-binary individuals. Racial equity. Challenge structures that uphold racial hierarchies and exclusion. Sustainability. Align workplace practices with environmental responsibility to benefit future generations. The vision of shared success. Mukhopadhyay concludes the chapter by painting a vision of a future where workplaces are engines of equity, creativity, and progress. In this future, success is redefined not as individual achievement but as collective prosperity, where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and thrive. What shared success looks like. Organizations that reflect the diversity of their communities, leaders who prioritize inclusion and ethical practices, employees who feel valued, supported, and empowered, societies that benefit from equitable and innovative workplaces. The call to action. The transformation of work will not happen overnight, nor will it happen without resistance. Mukhopadhyay calls on individuals, leaders, and organizations to take bold steps toward equity, even when the path is challenging. By imagining and building a better workplace, we lay the foundation for a more just and inclusive world. In the book's conclusion, Mukhopadhyay ties together the insights and strategies presented throughout, leaving readers with actionable steps and the inspiration to contribute to this movement. The future of work depends on us all, and together, we have the power to create it. Conclusion: redefining success and building a better future. The myth of making it is a rallying cry to challenge the status quo and envision a workplace where equity, authenticity, and collaboration replace exclusion, conformity, and competition. Samhita Mukhopadhyay has not only exposed the flaws in the systems we've inherited, but also illuminated a path forward, one that redefines success and creates opportunities for everyone to thrive. The traditional notion of making it often comes at a cost too great to bear, sacrificing identity, enduring inequities, and navigating systems designed to exclude. Mukhopadhyay urges us to recognize that these costs are not inevitable, they are the result of choices made by individuals, organizations, and societies, and therefore, they can be changed. A vision for the workplace. The future of work must prioritize humanity over profit, equity over competition, and community over individualism. Organizations have a responsibility to dismantle structural barriers, foster inclusive cultures, and hold themselves accountable for measurable progress. Leaders must embrace empathy, humility, and a commitment to action, setting the tone for transformative change. But transformation doesn't rest solely with those in power. Employees have the power to advocate for change, build networks of support, and use their voices to push back against inequities. When individuals and organizations work together, they can create a ripple effect that transcends industries, reshaping society itself. The collective effort for equity. Mukhopadhyay emphasizes that achieving workplace equity is not just a professional imperative, it's a moral one. It requires a collective effort from all stakeholders, individuals demanding better, organizations stepping up, policymakers creating protections, and communities uniting for justice. Actionable takeaways. As the journey through this book concludes, Mukhopadhyay leaves readers with actionable steps to inspire progress. 1. Examine your role, whether as an employee, leader, or policymaker. Identify ways you can contribute to dismantling inequities. 2. Support systemic change. Advocate for policies, practices, and cultures that prioritize inclusion and fairness. 3. Redefine success. Embrace values that prioritize well-being, collaboration, and shared growth over competition and individual achievement. A better future for all. The future Mukhopadhyay envisions is one where workplaces are vibrant, inclusive spaces that empower everyone to reach their full potential. By reimagining what it means to make it, we can move away from the myths that perpetuate harm and toward a vision of success that uplifts us all. As readers close this book, they are invited to take the lessons learned into their own lives and workplaces. The work of change begins with each of us, but its impact has the power to transform the world. The myth of making it is just that, a myth. The reality we build together can be so much greater.